We have a new Leggari Stone Kit available on our website, and today we're going to show you exactly how we got this look. Leggari Stone Kits use a dirty pour technique to achieve a real natural stone look. You can have this look in your kitchen. The process is extremely DIY friendly and can be applied over wood, formica, granite, concrete, and more. Check out the description below for more info on our Leggari Stone Kits.
All right, so we're gonna go over priming your countertops, and I have everything you need to prime your countertops in front of me, and I'll kind of go over it. We got our primer, we got a mixing container, 32 ounce mixing container, 1 quart. That's plenty to mix your primer for a 50 square foot countertop. We have our 2 ounces of clean cold water, a stir stick to mix it, my gloves, a roller on a roller handle, and I'm using a 3/8 snap roller. I have my tape here to de-shed the roller, and then a roller tray just to dip and roll, make it easy, less messy. So first thing I want to do is de-shed the roller. So what we're gonna do first, we're gonna just give these a little shake here. And then we're gonna pour our part A in first. Now we're gonna pour in the part B. Now the part B is the pigmented part, so we're doing white primer on this. Pour the majority out, and then I'm gonna add the 2 ounces of water. And that's it, so this is ready to be mixed. And simple stir stick, this mix is really, really easy. Mix it for about 2 to 3 minutes. We're gonna dump in the roller tray. So then I'll just run a pass down the middle, and then we're just gonna cross roll it. I wanna point out a few things. So we got some imperfections in this face. These should theoretically be filled, sanded. You want these faces as smooth as you can get them. Now we're doing a stone kit, so we're using twice as much epoxy as a standard kit. So we're gonna have more product flowing over. It probably will be fine, but even stuff like this, nail holes, anything in your edges, you want them smooth like this. You don't wanna see any imperfections, corners, always around your corners, and that's gonna give you a successful pour every time. All right, so I got my top done, my faces. Now I just continue that process all through the counters. So that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, primer's simple, it's fast. There's no need to show everything, priming this whole thing, but I'm just gonna continue that process throughout my kitchen. Whatever you guys are coating, right? You're gonna just do that process. Get the top done, hit your edges, your faces, your corners. Now, we recommend using the yellow Scotch tape, painter's tape. It's gonna give us a better adhesion. There's one. Now I'm gonna do another one. We always want to do two rows. That'll add a little rigidity to it. All right, so we got the tape on. Next thing is we want to really press it down good. And then that's how you tape off for our stone kits. Now, this is gonna keep the resin from flowing over. We can get our design, let that resin set up, and then we pull the tape and let it flow, and we'll be going over all that as we install the kit.
All right, so Tyler's got the counters taped off. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to mix up this kit. So this stone kit consists of 1.5 gallons of our pigmented white epoxy and 1.5 gallons of our famous Leggari metallic epoxy. And we're gonna be using Truffle, bronzer, and midnight pearl. So this is like a dark brown, kind of a beautiful light bronze color, and then a black. And you're gonna need a drill. We recommend an electric drill with the paddle wheel, 6 2.5 quart containers. We have 3 5-gallon buckets, a thing of denatured alcohol and some rags, just in case you make a mess, you want to keep your area clean, a couple 5-gallon stir sticks, some standard stir sticks, then of course a respirator. First thing we want to do is we want to empty out the pigmented white epoxy into this 5-gallon bucket. Empty out this part A. This is 1 gallon. It's a 2-to-1 ratio. So we want to empty out the part A into a 5-gallon bucket. We'll give it a few minutes here. We'll let that drain. Now you'll notice that when I start mixing this, I'm going to be using this paddle mixer on the electric drill, and I'm going to be going very fast. I'm not worried about bubbles. Our product is formulated to really dissipate bubbles that are induced during the mixing process. Tyler may induce a little bit more when he's actually doing the design on the counter, but that's fine. We get rid of all of those with some denatured alcohol. But in terms of inducing bubbles into the mix while I'm mixing, I'm not worried about it. I'm happy with that. You can definitely keep it upside down for longer. Now I have the hardener. Now the clock is ticking when you start adding the hardener. So we're not going to stress out about it. We have, again, plenty of working time, but the idea is that when I start mixing this, we want to get it out of the bucket as quickly as possible. So I'm going to mix. I'm going to pour the part B into this bucket. I'm going to mix for about 1.5 minutes, moving the drill up and down. Then I'm going to pour it into a brand new bucket and mix it for another 30 seconds, and then it's ready to go. We always recommend a secondary mixing bucket. All right, now I'm gonna mix for about another 30 seconds, hand it to Tyler, and he'll dump it out. All right, now this mix is ready to go. Now I probably have hundreds of thousands of bubbles in this thing. Again, it's irrelevant. We don't care. By the time we're done with this, it's going to be glass smooth.
All right, so Tim's got me that white. Now we're going to do this stone kit just a little different. It's going to be a little faster, a little easier, but it's going to give us some really cool effects. So when I dump this out, I don't want to just dump the majority of it out on, say, the island or one of the spot in the kitchen. I want to make sure I'm kind of dumping this out evenly all over the area that I'm coating. So the easiest way to do that is to just start out small, smaller beads. And again, this is just gonna be so random. I'm not even worried about a shape, a pattern, anything. I just wanna get this dumped out. So notice I'm pouring a little bit out all over the counter. And then like Tim said, I can let that all drain out because he used that secondary mixing container, and it's all gonna get hard. We're gonna have any soft spots in this. So once you start dumping out this, Tim's gonna start mixing. So the whole thing is to have everything flow continuously, right? Once I start dumping this, Tim's mixing the next batch, or whoever's having you guys help. That way, once it's mixed, you're ready to dump it out on the counter.
Okay, so Tyler's pouring that out, that first batch of pigmented white. Now I want to show you how to mix up the other half of the kit. So we have 1.5 gallons of clear, and we have these 3 packs. Very simple. I'll show you how to mix this up. The first thing we want to do is exactly what we did with the white. We're gonna pour our gallon of Part A into this 5-gallon bucket. Okay, got quite a few drips going. Again, you can leave that upside down for much longer, that's no problem. I'm gonna get going. I'll pour the Part B in, the hardener now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix for about 1.5 minutes in here like we always do. Then I'm going to separate this entire batch into 3 different batches of about 60 to 64 ounces each. Then I'm gonna add the color into that and we'll make our Stone Kit colors, or what the industry would call dirty pour kits. So I'm gonna use the same drill. I'm not worried about the little bit of remnant of the white on here. It's not really going to affect anything. All right, so we're pretty even here at about 64 ounces in each of these. So now I haven't mixed this in a secondary mixing bucket, but these act as secondary mixing buckets. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a respirator on, or you can use a vacuum to suck up any residual dust, and we're just going to pour the metallics in here. I'm gonna switch this to a smaller paddle wheel. You can also use a second drill if you'd like. And then I'm going to mix them for about 30 to 45 seconds each. And then I'll show you what to do after that. Now, one thing I'll mention is that I'm going to be going from the lightest color to the darkest color, and that's by design. I'm gonna be going from bronzer, then to truffle, then to midnight pearl. And that's so I don't kind of taint the lighter colors. Now, it doesn't matter as much with the dirty pour technique, but it's a good habit to get into. All right, so now what we're going to do is take another 3 containers. This is where it gets really fun. Now, you really can't screw this up. What I'm gonna do is I'm just going to begin to pour some of these in randomly, and I'm gonna try to make 3 batches that at least are similar. All right, now we got our batches. I'm just gonna wipe the sides of them real quick, take them right over to Tyler, and he's gonna start dumping them out immediately, very quickly. Simple, simple process.
All right, so this has been sitting till Tim got done mixing. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take this squeegee. You can use a piece of cardboard, putty knife, anything that's just kind of sharp and short, skinny. And I'm just gonna kind of get some of this white to my edges, just real quick. I just wanna kind of spread this around. All right, so now I'm ready to dump out that batch that Tim just made. I'll set that squeegee down next to the counter, that way I'm not stepping in it. And all I'm gonna do is just go around real quick and just start dumping in all these spots. Now I wanna dump a little out in one section and then just move around, because you're gonna get different colors coming out depending on how much you've dumped out. And I want to make sure we're getting similar colors all throughout this counter. And now I'm just again filling in any open areas. All right, so the next step is I'm gonna dump out some of our Leggari effects, and then I'm gonna just start running through this counter with that squeegee, kind of blending stuff all random directions, and it's gonna create some really cool effects. And then once I'm done with that, I'm gonna take some black spray paint and just kind of ghost the surface, and then spray clear isopropyl on it to create some big craters, some big cells. And that's kind of why we have the paper on the backsplash, because I don't want the spray paint hitting that. Now, if this is your house, you'd probably want to tape it all the way to the top, right? We don't want to have to repaint anything. We might get a little overspray there. We'll just touch it up, but typically you'd want to go as high as you can to minimize any of that spray paint getting on anything else. All right, so we got the silver effects here. And when you guys, before you use these, make sure you shake these up really well. And I'm just gonna squeeze this stuff out randomly. Comes with a little squeeze tip. All right, so we'll use the same squeegee. Again, guys, you can use a piece of cardboard, putty knife, anything that's just kind of skinny. And all we're doing is we're just kind of running through this thing, just so random it doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter how you do it. We just want to blend all these colors in. You can see all the cool cells we're getting with our pigmented white, our metallics, and those Leggari effects. We're already creating some really cool effects. And we haven't even ghosted it with the spray paint yet. All right, so I got pretty much everything kind of blended. It's all looking pretty similar, right? It's just really random. So what I'll do now is I just want to go around and make sure there's no spots where I can see primer. If there is, I'll just take my finger, pat it around. So we're looking for any indents, craters, and I want to fill these in before I ghost it with the black. And if you miss a spot and you notice it later, we can always touch that up too. So it's not that big a deal if you miss a spot. All right, so we got a little leak here. I'm gonna show you guys how to address that, because what's gonna happen is if we don't address it, it's gonna wanna pull our design and we're gonna have this like weird pattern going to this corner. So I wanna fix this, and we're just gonna spray a little denatured alcohol, get it wiped clean so I can get some fresh tape to stick to it. So if you guys have maybe like a spot that's leaking or a blowout or something, you can fix this. I could even move some resin back and really get it clean if I had to. But that should minimize it just by doing that. All right, so I'll show you two different ways. I'm gonna fog it with the black, but before I do that, I'm just gonna spritz it with the isopropyl, clear isopropyl, and you'll see the effects it's gonna leave without fogging it versus fogging it with the black. So again, a lot of options here, and maybe you guys want to fog it with a gray or spray paint or whatever. That's totally up to you. We're using black on this, so I just want this thing kind of spritzing out, and it kind of just starts dispersing the surface, which is just a beautiful kind of like a exquisite granite look, stone look. Now, when I add the spray paint, it's gonna create more dominant cells and effects by fogging it and then spritzing it. So that's kind of what you would get without the spray paint. And then I'll show you with the spray paint. Always shake these up really well. And like I said before, make sure everything's plastic off. You're gonna get overspray when you're spraying spray paints. And if you're inside a house, right, the stuff does smell. It's gonna create a smell in that house. Maybe wear a mask. Once you're done, maybe get some airflow without, you know, creating dust and stuff that's flying on your counters. I'm gonna test spray this on the plastic. Now we're just kind of fogging it, and I can always go back and add more. So it's always good to start out with less, and then we can go back and add more if we want. And I wanna do sections at a time. So I'll do a section about that big, and then I'll spritz it. And if I need to add more, I'll add more. Just depends on kind of the look you're going for. But you can kind of see the cells that it's creating from that. Just fogging it just a little bit. So if you guys wanted more black fracture veins, stuff like this, you would just fog it a little bit more, a little bit heavier. Now the other option is you can fog random patterns throughout it, not necessarily the whole thing, so you almost have these random spots that are doing these fracture veins, and I'll kind of show you that on maybe a different section of the counter. A lot of versatility with these, so I'll just kind of do like kind of a pattern going through the middle here. So see, now the whole counter doesn't have these black spots, they're just where I sprayed. So a lot of different options when you guys are doing this, and again, you can use different colored spray paints. You can do this with any stone kits. Very, very cool effect. But you can see how I sprayed a little more, so we have a little more of those black crater cells. And again, I can make it even more dominant. And then we just spritz it right away. We don't want to wait too long before we spritz it, because we don't want that spray paint to dry up on us. We want to get those effects going. All right, so we got this patch of, just like a solid patch of brown. That was kind of what I was talking about, guys. We can kind of blend this stuff in, make it not just like a blob of stuff right there. And that's, you can do with your hands, doesn't matter. And then once I spritz that, it's gonna look like the rest of the counter. So you can notice spraying random spots with the spray paint, different areas, or over here how we sprayed the whole thing, and it's kind of throughout the whole top. You have all these cells and cool effects. Now again, if you wanted it more dominant, spray it a little heavier. You just don't want to kind of flood that surface with the spray paint, or the effects won't push it out and create that look. I'm going to show you how to get some really big craters. So we're just fogging it again, and I'm just going random. I'm not hitting the whole thing, kind of getting heavier spots, and then we're going to do bigger drips. So I'm going to just get some on my gloves, and then we're going to do some bigger drips out here. Kind of flicking it out there. So you can see, creating some bigger spots, bigger cells. And again, guys, if there's any spots that you don't like, you can still mess with it. Like maybe you wanted this to kind of swoop more of like a vein pattern instead of kind of cutting off everywhere. I can just run my squeegee through it again, blend that in a little bit different, ghost that spray paint on there, spritz it, and it's gonna match up with the rest of the top. So a lot of different options if you see a spot that you don't necessarily like as much. Really simple fix to do that. All right, so I like everything except this spot right here. Everything's kind of flowing, right? But I got a bunch of different like swoops and stuff here, which, I mean, again, guys, granite, natural stone, it does weird, different stuff. But I'm gonna just show you how to address this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of run through here and just kind of spread some of these out, right? Get rid of some of those spots that are kind of circled up and doing weird things. Yeah, something like that. Now it doesn't have as much kind of random directions going on in there. And then what I'll do is I'll just fog it real quick, just because we kind of fogged this whole area before. And then I'm gonna do bigger drips on this since we did it on the island. Get some bigger drips out there. That'll help tie it into that island. Yeah, I like that a lot better. So you can always go back, mess with stuff, and you can see how I bring out a little bit more white. Maybe you want to do that. Maybe you want to bring out some more white in other spots. But I'm a lot happier with this. So just keep in mind, if you see a spot that you don't like, you can always adjust it, mess with it, add some more spray paint, blend it a little more. A lot of options with these kits. So what we'll do now is we'll give this about 10 minutes, let the isopropyl evaporate, and then we're gonna mist the surface with denatured alcohol, and that's gonna make it slick off and kind of fizzle, and that's gonna create a really glass smooth finish on these counters. All right, so we got the denatured here. Now I wanna just mist the surface, okay? This is gonna get rid of any air pockets, anything that's left in there, and just make that surface lay out glass smooth. So the last step is pulling the tape so we get our edges coated. There's an easy way to test for the right time. And how I always test is I'll peel the face back, and this is still fresh, so it's gonna wanna move quick. You can kind of see how fast it's moving down the edge here. It's a little thin there, but it's just moving pretty quick down the tape. I wanna pull this when it starts to kind of barely move down that tape edge, and I'll kind of show you what that looks like at that point. Right, we want it moving a little bit slower than that, but always check it. If it's moving down real quick, give it a little bit longer, and then we'll show you how to pull the tape when the time's right. All right, so it's ready to pull the tape, and how I know is because when I pull this tape back, and you can periodically check it, it's slowly starting to move down. Now, it's probably better to pull it sooner than later, and I'll kind of show you guys some tips if you pull it too late and it's not moving as much. But this is pretty much ready, and you can see right here we had a leak, but I didn't fix it. I showed you guys how to fix it if you wanted to, and then it's starting to pull the tape down, but it didn't break that seal because we got a good seal. Push it down nice and tight, and then over here is the spot that I showed you how to fix it if you do have them. So you can see that didn't keep leaking, kind of stopped it right there. So that's kind of what you can do if you do have those leaks, because we want to minimize those best we can. So what we're going to do is just start pulling the tape, and what's going to happen is it's going to let the resin slowly flow over the edge, and now that it's starting to set up, it's not going to move the design on the top, but we're going to still have that same exact design. That's why this technique is so awesome. All right, now we got all the tape pulled. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna take my gloves, my hands, since my gloves are already messy from pulling all that tape, and I wanna just rub in everywhere. Now don't worry about messing up the design, because this product's gonna flow over for another hour or so. But I wanna get rid of any surface tension, and this is surface tension right here. So it won't let the resin fill in these spots unless you have a lot there. It'll kind of just start flowing down each drip, and you'll have all these mist spots on your faces. So we want to get rid of that. And this is when the counters start to really come together, because you're getting that whole face coated. So like right here we got a dry spot. I'll fill that in. Once it starts to flow down, I don't want to smear it again, right? I just want to hit the spots that need it. I think we got all the edges slicked off with resin, and I mean, you can see over here, it's all the way to the bottom now. You can't even tell where I smeared it around with my gloves, and it just flows right over. You'll even get diagonal veins. And again, they're gonna kind of flow over, drip down for another half an hour, 45 minutes. The last thing you do is I don't wanna have to come back, scrape the drips, sand the drips. So I wanna periodically over the next, I don't know, half an hour to an hour while it's still dripping, scrape my drips off. And you'll have to do this a few times. Once it sets up enough, it'll eventually stop dripping. Now, let me see if I can find kind of like an imperfection spot. Yeah, these edges look really good. Like for instance, like maybe right here, maybe this is like a little, well, like right here, maybe that was like a little crater or a divot. If I wanted to touch that up, it's always good to get something on your paintbrush to never go on dry. So I can just dip, get a little product on there from a bucket, from the floor, and then I can just kind of get that little hair off of there. I can just kind of blend that in just a little bit, right? Make that not be add like a little circle or a blob. So that's how you would address divots, imperfections on your faces. So again, guys, never just assume your edges are gonna look beautiful even though they look good now. I'm gonna come out here and periodically check these until this stuff sets up enough to where I don't have to scrape my drips anymore.